All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. I'm Corey from Aquariumcoop. If you haven't met us before, we are an online business. We're a retail store. We have our products in over 150 stores. Today, we're going to talk about lighting. Oh, I have sound. Hold on. I got to fix it. Solved. We're going to talk about lighting today. I've talked about lighting in the past quite a few times, and there's lots of videos and different takes. And one thing that I'll say that kind of remained true is that I don't believe the type of lighting actually matters that much. Definitely intensity matters. Color of light can matter to the way things look. Blue lights, plants don't really like them as much, but this is why we can see 5,000 different lights on the market, and for the most part, they just work. And lighting wasn't always this way, by the way. So let's start maybe way back when I was first starting. And mostly my first light was T8. So the big round bulbs, right? And those would really struggle. And I feel like those lighting mattered more. And what I mean by that is if you just had one tube and you had a 55-gallon aquarium, it was actually pretty difficult to grow quite a few different types of plants and things like that, and maybe even see your fish. The tanks were fairly dim. And then when you only had one bulb, you could also just buy I bought one that really shined blue and my fish looked amazing, and all I did was grow a ton of algae and no plants and things like that. And so back then maybe it mattered a bit more, but why I want to start back there is technology has gone through quite a few changes for lighting over the last, let's call it 20 years. And where our main struggle, I felt like way back in the day, was just enough light, getting enough. Not so much what color temperature, that was mostly for visual looks on the plants and the fish, but just getting enough light. And I think we've solved that. We went through T5 high outputs. We had halides. We still have all this today. We have halides. We have T5 VHO. We have LED now. We have CFL bulbs, the ones you can kind of curly Q. Looks like a pigtail you can screw in. All of those over all of the years have grown all of the plants, right? So does it really matter? My answer is not really. Now, we are now in a world of LED, and even that has an arc, I believe. When LEDs first came out, they were actually pretty weak, or they were very high powered, but generated a crazy amount of heat, and the optics were bad. And what the optics means are, when you use a flashlight and you're turning the front of it, and you can have it be very wide or very narrow. Well, LEDs at the beginning mostly had pretty narrow beams. And then we kind of started getting different kind of spread patterns on the lights. And they were very much, if you owned, some of the first lights, they were just almost like these little, what do I call them, like nickel-sized LEDs with optics on them all throughout the light. And now we know that for even coverage and just what we like, it's lots of tiny LEDs, creates a more normal spread and less spotlight effect, and just more pleasing. But I believe that in this arc to where we are today, most lights are very, very powerful in the amount of light they put out. If you look at our light, ours is crazy powerful. And one of the things is that's because how people buy stuff, right? Generally, we want cars to go fast. We want things to bake faster, or cook faster. That's why we might be buying microwaves and air fryers, and speed and intensity and all of those things generally are sought after and seen as perks when you're shopping for something. And so knowing that almost everybody would rather have more than they need as opposed to not enough, right? It makes sense to design lights that are very powerful. And ours you can dial down, which is a great thing. We're going to talk about that. But when it comes to just buying a light on Amazon or any online store, there's basically enough and not enough. And there still are lights made to this day that are not enough. There's kit lights I find, like the Marineland lights that come. You'll get a 3-foot light on a 4-foot aquarium. It's not enough. You'll get the Tetra tanks or little kit tanks with like a couple LEDs inside. Not enough. But when it comes to pretty much buying an aquarium light that is made for growing plants, you would be hard pressed to trade actual dollars for a light that won't grow plants. Now, it might not grow the hardest ones on the planet. You might have a ginormous aquarium and you put a light this big on it. Like, there's some extremes there. But lately I see people kind of dipping their toes into wisdom from years ago and it making it harder. There's a gentleman we were helping that had, 4 30-watt LED spotlights on his like 55-gallon aquarium, and that has to be like the surface of the sun. And they were having algae problems and things like that. And so we'll talk about how much light you might want. But in terms of, does it really matter if it's a little more blue, a little more red, a little more orange, a little more green, a little more purple? Not really. Honestly, not really. There's more important factors like the length of light. Do you have enough light? Those two kind of being the most important ones. And then there's this little optimizing after that. And so when it comes to buying lights, I do believe if you just go and you're like, hey, this one says it grows plants, it probably will grow plants. It'll probably grow most of what we sell, honestly, because we sell easy to grow plants for the most part. Now, there are huge differences if you're going visually, what does my aquarium look like, or how are the colors presenting? That is all a matter of taste, and yes, can make a huge difference to you. But in terms of the plants, they actually don't care about it that much. We like to think they do, but the reality is we're talking about the last 5% to optimize, right? And so when we talk about that, like if we talk about our own light, we've optimized that last 5% of like we have less blues in it. So our light looks a little more natural, like if you were to view fish in the wild. Now, blue light is one of the least used spectrums by aquarium plants. So that's one thing to know. And then also it's fully usable by algae. All light is. So when you have a portion of light that doesn't really do a whole lot for the plants, it can make bluefish look good though. And it will grow algae. We said, well, let's tone that part down and make our light kind of more natural. So you'll see a lot of lights on Amazon and just makers in general where they just put all the colors in and they're like, hey, it's a light, it does light. Or they'll focus real hard on the nighttime feature, which I would love to see kind of nighttime blue LEDs just leave lights altogether, just gone. My own included. I included it because people, again, when you put something out in the market, people will judge it against others and like, oh, you don't have the feature. Meanwhile, you don't want the feature. And if you did, Fluwall used to make, and it was great, they used to make specific nighttime spotlight LEDs. And they didn't sell well. They're hard to get. They might still make 1 or 2 of them. And they actually went underwater. You'd suction cup them to the bottom of your glass, and you could pinpoint them like right where maybe your ghost knife cave was, or wherever your nocturnal fish were kind of living. And that was actually the best solution, but it never really did well. And when you have blue lighting on for hours and hours, you end up growing a lot of algae. And so that's why I don't recommend using our blue light at night longer than you're actually viewing it. I don't recommend using 24-hour night cycles on lights because you're just typically having algae problems. So if we were able to get rid of that feature, if I could just delete that feature, then it would allow LED manufacturers to go, well, hey, what should we be focusing on? Like, well, let's make fish look good. Let's make sure we grow the plants. Let's make sure we don't burn people when they're touching the light. Let's make sure it's affordable. Let's make sure it's fairly water resistant. Let's make sure it's got a good spread. Let's make sure we put LEDs to the end and not, oh, we'll cut them 8 inches in. We'll save money that way. Let's not build them to break. There's a bunch of things we could be focusing on. And because when people are new, they tend to go, oh, wow, I could just basically have my light on 24 hours a day, not realizing that that is not the same as, oh, there's some moonlight out there. So I see someone here is asking, what about how important are lights on an unplanted aquarium? Really, if you don't have live plants, you just need enough light to visually see your fish. And someone like Dean uses very low lights in his breeding tanks because he doesn't like cleaning the algae. Where to me, I like them to be a little brighter than that, day in and day out. Some people will just use natural sunlight and things. I like having enough light to see them. And so a lot of my aquariums with my own light, I'll run at 30-ish%, which is still fairly bright, honestly. It's still like 35 power on a lot of my tanks, which is enough to grow almost anything, honestly. And I think I've naturally become used to brighter lights. I have a strong suspicion that if I was to go buy some T5 or T8 bulbs and put them on the aquarium and go, wow, this is what we were used to, and I remember it would just look great. And then here we go, like, wow, that looks so dim in comparison, but we've raised that bar to a new standard. And with that new standard comes faster growth on plants, which may or may not be wanted. Can come algae if you're not in balance, right? Can lead to more skittish fish also. So do know that really bright lights typically make fish more skittish. Just like if you were, if I had a big spotlight on me and I was being interrogated, you're on edge. Where nice, soft, subdued lighting is generally more appreciated by every living thing. So when it comes to that, and we have tanks like that, by the way, in our store. We have lots of tanks that maybe don't have plants. We also have the quarantine area, and our lighting in the store is different. And what I mean by that is planted tanks, lots of light. We want to grow them. We're pumping in CO2. We want them to look good for the customers, all of that. And then you might go to the fish sales tanks, and I was there a couple weeks ago, and I was there this week too, actually. But a couple weeks ago, we actually brought it down one more notch on the light. They were cleaning lots of algae week to week, and I go, well, are you balancing for the algae? And they kind of just, no, is the answer. And I go, why don't we try lowering the lights by one setting, see if we notice any difference in sales, see if we notice any difference in algae, and go from there. And seemingly, we haven't noticed anything different in sales. A little too short to know really has had a big difference in algae yet. Usually takes at least 2 weeks to notice any difference when you make a change in lighting, just to what the system's going to do and react to it. And then we have the quarantine tank, and I was working in there this week, and our lighting was pushed to the back out of the way for netting and dumping fish in and doing all that, and the tops hadn't been clean; they were a little bit dusty. And I said, well, in the quarantine room, it's actually the most important place, one, in the store, but two, the most important place to have good lighting. So if you have a quarantine tank, having the ability to light that aquarium really well is super beneficial, because that's where you're trying to see, hey, is that a spot? Hey, is there something going on with the fin there? Hey, I got to see back in that corner. And so having good light in quarantine situations, very important. You see really good light in, like if you ever had to go for surgery or the ER or anything like that, like lots of light, right? You got to be able to see the problems. So that becomes very important. And yeah, maybe you have a light that's adjustable and you crank it up when you're going, oh, I do think they have ick, let me see. And you turn it back down, because that much light all the time will stress them out. But the color of light doesn't matter that much, in my opinion, outside of that blue. Intensity does matter. And the way that lighting was explained to me by lighting manufacturers, and when you kind of dig into it, think of lighting kind of like rain. The photons that come out of the light are what is causing the light. And if you have very intense light, it's like really, really, really hard rain, right? And that accumulates pretty fast. Where if you have less rain, but it rains longer, right? Kind of, you can have a very long photo period with less light, or really intense light for very short. Now, being a creature of habit that I am, I prefer my lights to be on 8 to 10 hours a day. Kind of my work days, they kick on at 11 a.m. And then they go out at 7 p.m. And that allows me to kind of do what I want to do. It accounts for live streams, it accounts for all kinds of stuff. And though that's how my tanks are built, as in they're on a timer, so it lights the same way every day. And then I know how much to fertilize, and I figure that out. Each tank is different, but because you have the constant, you can figure that out, right? And then you can adjust the light. So I have adjustable lights. I can turn it down. If I go, you know what, I'm not dosing that much fertilizer, I don't want to dose that much fertilizer, or there's not that many fish, or I don't want these plants to grow that fast, or I don't want as much heat, or any of these things. Someone in the beginning, a couple questions we'll address in the very beginning here. If you get here early and you hang out, a lot of times we're chatting. And these were both questions that were easier for me to answer in voice than they would be to type in several little messages and have to piece it together. So one person was asking, how do you not put too much light to water lettuce, a floating plant? And then they were using the Aquariumcoop light, and all their other plants were growing really well, and some were even growing up out of the tank. And my answer to that is, really, you can't. There's no way to balance light for a floating plant and for all the plants that you could possibly want in an aquarium. You're going to have to make choices. You're going to have to build the system. And what I mean by that is, so if you're going to run 50% of the top covered in floaters, everything below it's not going to get as much light. If you just try and crank it up to account for that, you could burn the top ones or just grow them even faster. But if you know you're going for that look, then you go down here and go, okay, I need low light, cryptocorns, anubias, java ferns, things like that. So wassertangs, java mosses. And you're going to struggle by shading up top and growing scarlet temple, Ludwigias, trying to think of other stem plants that'll want more light, Amannia gracilis, things like lotus, things like that. They're going to want more light than you can give them. You can always remove some of the floaters, right? But they're always growing and it's always impacting that. And so it's going to be very difficult to basically make, if we think about it as temperature, and if the top level's absorbing all the heat and these guys are freezing to death down here, you can turn the light up. Now these things are overheating and dying, but now these are getting enough. So it's going to be very hard to keep both always happy unless you're specifically going, hey, we'll let these absorb most of the light. The ones down here will take less light. But that does make you make choices, not based on what you like to look at, but based on what are their lighting needs and can I make that happen? The next question was, can Java moss / hair algae and things like that be seasonal? They're running into lots of hair algae in a tank that was stable now that it is warmer in the summer. And I would say, no, it can't really be seasonal in that just because it's summer doesn't mean it does that. Where there's like a Pontigetan plants where after about 3 or 4 months, they will kind of seasonally die back, go dormant for a few months and come back. But really it's a temperature thing we have going on here in these aquariums that are running into this hair algae problem. And in general, plants don't like to be hot. What I mean by that is underwater, long periods of time, they don't really like to be above 80 degrees. Most plants would prefer more like 72 if you allowed them to be. And then there's lots of plants that basically won't go above 60, 65. All our native stuff here is that way. You go above like 65 degrees, it just dies and will not tolerate it. So there's tons of plants in the world that don't fit aquariums because all the fish we want to keep don't fit that temperature. And so that's where it does become important, maybe for you, the light will matter. And what I mean by that is finding a light that is good at dissipating heat. Metal halides are not. They produce tons of heat, for instance. Maybe having a little bit of an air gap between the glass and the light. Even just having glass will reflect some of that heat out of the aquarium and keep that temperature a little bit lower. Being able to have efficient LEDs, have proper heat sinks, not drive as much. One of the best things is, and I'm trying to teach my employees this too, is everything we do with an aquarium has effects, things that we know why we're doing it, and then things we don't know yet. And the things we don't know yet is like, well, by turning every light in the store down by one click, oh, it's half a degree cooler in here in the middle of summer. We're using less electricity. We'll also save a little bit more money. But the original reason we did it was to not scrub as much algae. And there's always going to be things like that. And it could be as simple as, wow, if I turn down my light, my water's less warm, my Java moss is more happy, I'm growing less algae because of that. I could dose a little bit less. There's all these little things that start changing. And it could be that you turn your light down a little bit, you modify the AC in your house. Maybe it's 1 degree lower, and next year you don't have that problem. A lot of times it's just subtle imbalances. As water gets warmer, by the way, fish and plant metabolism speed up. So if we're using Easy Green, or let's say we're dosing ferts of any variety, the hotter the water is, the more they will consume. Not by a crazy amount, but by some. And if you're right on that edge, and now you're running out, the minute you kind of run out of fertilizer is really when algae takes a hold and goes, yes, now's my time. They're kind of waiting to me, it's kind of like overdraft fees at a bank. Like everything's just going fine, but like once you run out of money and you get that overdraft fee, you can have times where like ding, like it hits 6 times, and kind of the way it stacks up of like, oh, we'll run all the charges, then we'll run your deposits or whatever. Where if you just always have money in the bank, you never run into that problem. You don't have that chain reaction. And that's kind of what happens with nutrients. If you have a bunch of nutrients in your aquarium and you got plenty, you'll never run into that chain reaction where just algae really starts taking off and the plants are struggling. And so, but yes, this part we're talking about heat and the lighting part. If we can keep the lighting kind of constant, I believe most lights will grow plants. I do believe there are factors, we talked about that, the construction, the price, the colors, the heat, the durability, the are they actually giving the right spread left to right, but also front to back. There's a lot of things going on there to consider, and each aquarium is going to be different because every plant placement is different. Every piece of decor is different. Tank heights are different. The light you're using is different. So often we try to compare what someone else is doing, and it's like different size tank with different size light with different plants may as well be halfway across the world to that ecosystem. In reality, though, we're going, wow, it's pretty similar to mine. Like, not really at all. And they'll have different water structure. They'll be feeding different food. They'll be taking care of it differently. They might water change differently than you. They might use different additives than you. They might do all of these things. So we try to, best you can do is you get constants in your own aquariums. And that's where, like a Casa Wi-Fi timer, I highly recommend these. Whether you ever buy our light or not, doesn't matter. Things that remember their settings for power outages save you. When you're out of town and the power blinks, and now you're going to have, oh, I've got 7 days of the light being the wrong schedule, or on the full time, or off the full time. Any of those will cause you 6 months of work to get it back to where it was, which is a bummer. That's basically like, hey, the light went wonky, you ran out of money, you're now getting overdraft fees, and oh, you've got $600 in overdraft fees, and to dig out of that hole is going to take you a few months, because usually when you get those fees, you didn't have a ton of money to begin with, right? So I'm going to drink of water here and I'll keep going. I turned off overdraft on my bank account, so I'll never have algae. That's modern times require modern solutions. It's also one of the reasons why I'm not huge on having tons and tons of tanks in windows. I've had them at the store that way. I've got skylights here, and it's because you do get the seasonality. So that's the bummer part. You do get the sunlight, which is all lights are pretty much trying to mimic that light. So it's kind of the best looking color wise light, and you get the best colors on the fish and all that. But if it's a rainy, cloudy day, that's the light you get. If it's crazy hot, that's the day you get. And when it's crazy hot, sometimes you'll bump your aquarium up by 5 degrees or something like that. And so it ebbs and flows with what nature is doing, which we spend a lot of time trying to chase nature. And there's things like nature always knows best, and I definitely would say I've been in that camp. I believe that sometimes. But when you really do critical thinking, it's like, well, does nature know best when all those ducklings just got eaten? Like, was that the best environment that those ducks could be in? Like, well, no, probably not. So nature does things that aren't necessarily in the best interest of whatever animal or organism or thing we're specifically talking about. Just like you can sunburn fish and things like that. Like, what? It doesn't make sense until you see it and you're like, oh, it literally was just too intense. Too intense. You can bleach corals. We see that happening in the oceans. We see it happening in our aquariums if we use too much light. So not always. I would say nature is for inspiration, in that, like, wow, nature finds a way, and if it can survive this, it probably can survive that. But I also wouldn't say it's always just optimal either. And so lighting that you can't control, for me, has been one of the hardest things for me to ever beat. And I don't think I beat it. I have to control the light, and then I have much more success, because one year having this many sunny days and the next year not having that many sunny days, and I can't really look at the weather and go, kind of cloudy today. How much easy green? I'm feeling like 32% of what I normally dose this week. And you're playing the weatherman instead of kind of playing vet or ecologist or whatever you want to play. Welcome, Yaddy. You've been watching for like 7 years. Good on you. I love my windows, but that's just a matter of preference. Yeah. I mean, there's when it comes to lighting, like when we had lots of aquariums in our front window in our store, like, you have to look at it for money. Do you like scrubbing algae every 2 days? Like, oh, that costs how much, and what's going on there, and it doesn't look good, and this is happening, and oh, we have to run UV sterilizers because they turn green otherwise, and you couldn't keep oxalotls up there because it would get too hot, and But if you have a big window and it's lighting just correct, and part of it is, like, I feel like everything, there's just always nuance that you can never really fully articulate in a video without having a dedicated conversation. I might walk into Matt West's house and he goes, oh, yeah, you have an east-facing window instead of a west or north or south. Just what way the window is and the way the sun is going, dramatic impact on what we're even talking about, right? Or you've got a window and your neighbor's house is white and it's reflecting the light, and it's like it's a magnifying glass of light through your window, and it's about 7,000 degrees in that bedroom where that tank is. Like, there's so many things that kind of have to be factored in, that almost nothing is concrete. There's always going to be options, and, well, what about this worked, that worked for me, this happened here. Always. So just know that these are all very wide sweeping generalizations that help most people. And I do believe that one of the truest things I've ever said is keeping the light constant is about as perfection as you can get. Now imagine you live in like Alaska, and you've got what, six months of night and 6 days, or 6 months of day, or whatever that crazy cycle is. Like, even there, another, like, well, that's the windows aren't gonna work for me. Like, yeah, it's crazy. Can a dimmer be used on lights that have 3 modes? Requires pushing a button to switch between the modes. I'm not sure. I'd have to play with it. That's the AQQA light. The plant's white. Let's see. Plant's white and both on. I'm not. So the way I would test it, I would unplug the light, and whatever you plug the light back in, whatever that is, that's what it's going to do. So if it's like, oh, I plugged it back in, it's off. Well, that's a bummer. We go out of our way to make sure our light doesn't have those problems. It memorizes its settings and things like that. There's other things like our light would do that, again, 4 billion lights, all different kinds, all different features. Like this dimmed light right here, if I was to replace it with a Fluval light, it'd be flickering. We made it so that our frequency of lights won't flicker on camera. Why? Because we're YouTubers and we film all the time. And everybody is now filming their tank and sharing it on Facebook and all of that. And we don't think that's a good look. And so we don't want people to only run it on max so they don't have the flickering. And these are all just little things. And it might never make a difference to you. That's fine. But it drives me absolutely batty when I'm testing lights and doing things like, oh, why would you make a light at this frequency? That makes no sense. So, let's see here. I see you there, skateboard. Is there someone else named Skateboard here? So I was like, I don't think I have one on the wall or anything right now. Thoughts on using saltwater lights for freshwater? If they're free, sure, right? They tend to be pretty powerful. They tend to put off a lot of heat. And then they tend to have lots of blues in them because unlike plants, corals see blue really well. When you filter water or filter light through water, that's why when you look at the ocean, it looks blue. Because it's filtering out all the other colors except for the blue. So the blue actually penetrates really well and grows corals really well. That is the opposite of what plants want. And so a lot of times, but some lights you can be like, oh, I just turn the blue channel off. It depends on, an $800 saltwater light that's fully controllable and all that is probably totally usable. But it's still not optimized for plant lights. And that's kind of why I said, like, well, buying a plant light, you're kind of just good to go. There's always going to be outliers that are like, well, that literally is just the worst light money can buy. But for the most part, you pick one, read some reviews, see how many things that did wrong and did well and all of that. Flatbed trucks or skateboards in the trucking realm. Did not know that. Thanks for the water lettuce lighting info. I need the floaters for very hard water. So low light plants under the floaters work great. My brain already is like, I have hard water. I don't need floating plants. So that's why everything's nuanced of like, that's a longer conversation. I wonder why someone would be like, I need that. Because he might be like, well, I got to soak up the calcium. It's like, but all plants do that. So, yeah, anyway. Moving on from that. Let's see here. I will say, by the way, sometimes people using relatively cheap lights or just constant like that, they can get great results. Like, I think I used to run into that, and I think a lot of people, you guys might run into that too, where you see someone using like what I would call like that's an inferior light, but their tank looks amazing. And the reality is they've just like, let's say my tanks. If my tanks needed 40 par and the plants would look great, and my light can put out 150 par, if I just run that thing at max, I'm only making my job harder. Where if I bought a light and at max could do 40 and I run it at max, you're kind of at an advantage. That being said, being that I do this for work and I get to make my own light and do those things, I do want it to not flicker. I do want not very much power going into or heat going into the tank. I do want not as much blue. I do want it to remember its settings. I do want it just to be on a timer. I do want to be able to control it. Like, so if you watch the tank here, I can do all kinds of stuff. I've got all these settings, but I can turn the 800 gallon you know, on and off. So let's, oh, and actually I can't because I actually flipped the power switch, but I can, you know, turn off like all of my lights. Like there went all the lights on my tanks, and I can flip them back on. And that's, I have lights set just for filming. I have lights set, like here would be filming lights. Just those ones go off, which it looks the same. Yeah. But all these different tanks, like, oh, just this tank right here. Boom. I love that I can do that from anywhere in the world, and that remembers it, and that I can dial it in. And I don't like having way too many variables. I like to reduce, as you see, I like things to be easy. The easier things are, the more likely I am to have success. And that's really, I'm always looking for success, whether it's breeding the fish, growing the plant, enjoying it. And sometimes the challenge is the enjoyment, and so that is success. But I don't like fighting the Fluval app, for instance. Like, just sometimes really hard to get Bluetooth to connect. You can only do it when you're within so many feet of it. And then trying to, let's say I get one tank really dialed in, it's a pain in the butt to match that light setting to another tank. Or if you're in a big tank, like the 800 gallon had four Fluval lights on it, you could start pairing them, and you could start like grouping profiles, saving it, and trying to copy them over. Those came in later versions, but it was still just like, this is honestly just more difficult than I want it to be. And it would generally take me longer to get the result I wanted, because I'm like, well, maybe I do want some ramp up and some ramp down. Should I try 2 hours ramp up, 2 hours ramp down, or 1 hour and 1 hour? Should it be 10 total with 2 up and 2 down, which is only really going to be 6 hours of intense light, but even that. And so when I just kind of had it be on and off, that eliminated a lot of the choices and just got me down to like, okay, on and off, how many hours? Okay, I got that dialed in. Good, moving on. Yeah, I hated the Fluval app till I met the Shihiro's app. I still have that light in the box. I set the one up for Chris Luke up at his house, and I bought one because I wanted to just like do some par readings, and just, I still have a video I want to make on lighting. And yeah, battling the app, I'm just like, I'll get to it one of these days. I love my Aquariumcoop lights on timers with the option of just turning them on for company. Yeah. Ooh, here's a tip, by the way. If you like, I use a billion of these every day. So like when you have company over, my best tip is to always set a second off time, right? And this works for any timer. But let's say just every day you have your lights on from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Let's just say that's what it is. Just pretend, right? I also set another off at like midnight or 10 or whatever, some other time, so that, let's say like here in my fish room at 7 p.m. lights go out. Well, let's say we had people over for dinner, and now it's 8, and people are like, oh yeah, can we see the fish room before we go? Like, yeah, okay. You turn them on, right? You go bink, turn on all the lights. If you're doing your people thing and you walk back out and you don't turn off the lights, they now just got a whole extra like 12 hours of light. But if you automatically have all your lights also shut off again at 10 or midnight or whatever it is, even when you make a mistake, there it goes. Same thing if you ever use a timer for like canister filters. So like, when this is more akin to like using, my brain is not keeping up with me today. Temperature controllers, like an Inkbird temperature controller with a heater. It's like an extra fail-safe, right? So if you're the type of person that maybe wants to unplug filters while you work on them, or while you're feeding, or any of that, and you need to physically turn them back on, Casa timers also help. So even though you don't have to set an off, you can set ons. So you could set a Casa Wi-Fi timer to turn on every 20 minutes all day long. On. And if you ever go in the app and you turn it off because you want to feed for 20 minutes, right? You want no filtration, or you want the canister filter off, or you want the heater unplugged for an hour. You could set any of these and just have it kick on. It will prevent that, oops, I forgot to turn it back on thing. And a lot of people will be like, well, I don't have that problem. But there's enough of you that I see it like every day between comments here and Facebook and just, you know, messages to our customer service. People forget to plug things back in or forget to turn them back on. And something like, you know, a $15 device can basically eliminate that from ever happening again. Also can, you know, it fixes the oopses. And so I find it to be very beneficial. Easy to get tired after a water change and fall asleep. Yep. Yeah, there's definitely times when I'm just maybe you got, like, I know if I buy fish at a Greater Seattle Aquarium Society meeting or something, I get back and I turn on the lights, it's midnight, and then I'm just forgetting, and then I guess I know how much damage can be done to an entire room of fish tanks with an extra 12 to 14 hours of light. Like, oof, that is brutal. And then, especially when you're working on it and like, oh, I just created myself 6 hours of work. Dang it. Let's see here. Oof. My Chihiro light broke 2 days after I bought it. What's even worse is the refund policy is only like 48 hours. That's because those lights are expensive. I have one in the box. Where is it? I don't know. Might be sitting on my table. It was like $300. Yeah. So again, our light, 3-year warranty. You know, where a lot of other lights, I call most lights, in my opinion, have the Amazon warranty, where you get your 30 days, and after that, Amazon's like, nope. And then usually you contact the company, and it's some series of, oh, we'll go ahead and troubleshoot it, and that'll take a week or two, and then you can go ahead and send it in, and if you pay enough and you snail mail this thing in, we'll look at it, we'll repair it, and we'll send it back like a month later. Meanwhile, your tank's dying. The plants are dying. You know, I've always maintained that. Like, when we're talking about 12, 14 hours, like, oh man, algae problems and things happening. And people, you know, people talk about this all the time. Like, I'm worried, are my plants going to be okay for 3 days in the mail? Like, yes, they'll be fine for like a week. But when plant light manufacturers are like, oh yeah, just send it in, we'll get it back to you in like a week or two. That is not, the plants aren't, they're going to be worse for the wear. And they're expecting you to buy another light or have another light. And those systems are in place to try and encourage you to, like, well, maybe I'll buy a second one. Now I have a backup. I can run 2. I'll wait for the other one to get back here. That kind of stuff. It's not truly warranting it. It's like there's probably some word for it, but some kind of sneaky version. I've had great success with cheap LED shop lights, but since switching to the co-op light, I've been blown away with how well the plants grow. So with shop lights, I've done it too, because they were the first cheap ones I could afford. They'd be like $40. They are so much light, and they are so orange. I didn't like the color, and they were too much, which now on Amazon and things like that, there's so many like dimmers and just things you can kind of buy and play with and maybe wire in, depending on what your skill level is, that you could probably dial the light down to the right amount. But oftentimes I still find they're not the right spectrum to make fish look good, and that's because they've never been designed to do that. They're there to be a cheap light to light up a shop or a garage or something like that. And so, yeah, it does its purpose amazingly. Cheap, lots of light. It accomplishes that really well. Not super water resistant. A lot of times you have to modify them because the way the hoods are, they'll kind of like get light into your eyes and everything. But yes, and that only reaffirms any light will pretty much grow plants. I mean, that's kind of the way it goes. That being said, there's so many other little factors there that become, it'd be like, technically, all you need is water. You only ever need water. There should never be another drink on the planet. Not needed. But we have 40 billion different options with each one slightly different taste, different color, different effect. This one's got caffeine. This one's got sugar. This one doesn't. This one has this. This one has this. This one's multivitamin. This one's salty. This one's this. Kind of same thing. So, like, really, all of them derive from pretty much water. But then there's all the extra little twists to it. And that's what lights are. I have some bright white shop lights on a tank right now. I folded light brown plastic shopping bags over a few times and put them under the LEDs to dim them. Yeah. I mean, there's a million ways to get to the other side, you know, and some of them, like I worry about that. Like when that thing goes, is that like a fire hazard? The thing is, like, when we start modifying things, you might be making like a big old heat sandwich right there, and that thing's like, oh, it died after a year, or it might last till the end of time. There's also products where it's like, that thing, I don't know, it's older than I am. I bought that when I was 2, and somehow it's older than I am. So there's always that kind of stuff too. So just be careful though when you start modifying stuff. Definitely can have effect on warranties, and just in general can cause heat and other things that electronics weren't designed to handle that part. So let's see here. Yeah. So I want to talk about memberships today as well, because I haven't talked about it in a long time, and I've been thinking about memberships yesterday and today. So if you don't know, when you become a member of the channel, you can get coins, which I have none on my desk apparently right now. So that's awesome. You get coins after 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. The 6 year one is coming up. You also get a big Yeti thing at 5 years. You also get 5% off on the website when you sync your account over there. You get access to the member-only videos and live streams. We have we hire a speaker every month. We pay them $500. We buy them a headset. We buy them a webcam. And usually they're a professional in their field, and we want to hear about what they've got to say. And you can watch all the backlog. It's $5 a month. And yeah, even if you just want to get for 1 month. But most people, at least the stats show, most people, once they get in, they go, hey, I'm actually enjoying this for $5. I think the value is there. Everyone's money situation is different, obviously. And some people, they get laid off and they got to go, and then they come back. And we're not watching you going, oh, look at this, this person unsubbed or anything. But it is a nice, tighter knit community that we hang out in from time to time. So if that sounds appealing, give it a try. Plus, if you're buying stuff from us, saving 5%, if you spend $100, that pays for 1 month of it. So not everybody's spending $100 a month, obviously, but maybe you're spending $50 a month, and hey, the value you get for just $250 a month that's a better thing. And I should also mention the coins and things are only happening in the United States currently. We don't have a way to get them worldwide, which is a super big bummer, and is still on the, I was trying to think about that today. I'm like, I wonder if there's a worldwide 3PL partner, which 3PL just means third-party logistic partner, that would ship worldwide, and then I guess I would charge international customers. Like, that feels dirty. But let's say it's $20 to send, like, you've been here for a year, and it's like, oh, it's gonna be $13 to send the coin. Like, well, that kind of is defeating the purpose. Like, the coin costs money, we had to send it to that country, that costs money, and then we'd be spending like $13 to send it. You could get to a series of events pretty soon where it's like, this is only just costing and losing us tons of money. But it also feels weird to be like, yeah, you got to pay 13 more bucks and we'll send it to you. So I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm trying to figure out, maybe we can find a partner, like maybe in Europe, and then like, hey, if you maybe you order your food from europefishfood.com, but we'd still have to find a way to sync up your account to them, and that's still I still don't know how to do that part either. So it's a 4D chess problem we got going. Candy donating 5 memberships. So those that are in the chat, or technically you don't have to be in the chat, but those that just won, you'll get a free 1 month trial. And yeah. In the last 4 years, I've set up 10 tanks, mostly with Haiger lights. Only ones I've lost are ones I've dropped in the tank. Well, don't you know, like 2 live streams ago, people said it was impossible to drop lights. That never happens. Yeah. No, good. I both love and hate it when our competitors, like a Haiger, like, oh, I hate that company. But then I'm also like, well, I'm glad it's holding up for you though, because I don't want your money to not be good. I hate Higer how it's like when you say you have the Aquarium Co-op light, everybody in this chat knows exactly what light you're talking about. When you say, oh, you have a Higer light, oh, which one of the 70 that are on Amazon right now? Like it's so crazy that they have that many different, like they'll just sell anything. And I feel like they should streamline what they're doing. That's all. So is higher wattage better? If it comes to lights, no. I would say really you're looking for efficiency in LEDs and things like that. Wattage just in itself, more not better. Usually it does coincide with that. Like it would be like a car, right? So is a car that can go faster just better for getting to work? Like, well, no. Like, you don't need to go 212 miles an hour. At a certain point, you're like, well, that's just kind of enough. Maybe you got to go 70, 80 in a situation, right? You'd be more like the wattage is more like how fast can you go, where how efficient, maybe that's better. Like, ooh, how many miles a gallon? 20. This one gets 25. This one gets 30. This one gets 45. That probably means a lot more to you in your day to day. Because if you're driving to work, you're trying to make money. The less money you spend getting to work, in theory, the more money you make. Which model is Higer using to buy positive reviews? Yeah, they do some of those kind of shenanigans. Which webcam do you give them? We buy them a Logitech. Is it Logitech 920? It's like $100. Our goal is to keep everything together under $600, so we don't have to issue 1099s. That just it makes it not a burden on their end of like, oh, we got to fill out this 1099, and then we got to file it, and then you got to do this on your taxes. And we still can pay them $500. Otherwise, we start crossing those thresholds. Like, well, okay, now we got to issue a 1099, and you got to do this and that and this, and then they start going, this is too much work. I don't want the money. And it's like, no, okay. And to be fair, probably like 1 out of 5, or maybe even a little more, donate the money. They want it to go to a charity, so then we send the money that way. So there is that too. Congrats on 300 episodes. That's right. It's actually been more. Some have gotten deleted over the years. Some have were false starts and all that. But yeah, 300. What's crazy is 300 doesn't seem like that big of a number to me until I realized 300 once a week. Wait, 300 weeks. Oh, that's 6 years. If I didn't miss a week, oh yeah. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years now or something. So it makes sense that with the amount that I'll take breaks and get busy, that we've been able to do about 6 years worth out of 10 years. So I guess that means more often than not, I can make it each week. Riding that line pretty soon. Could be 50-50. Who knows? Trying to get better, trying to get more live streams in. I do want to get back on Sundays. I like doing it on Sundays, but the weekend days sometimes make it hard with travel, so. Yeah, I filed 1099s for a side gig. Thanks for staying under 600. What's a 1099? It's a contractor form. Technically, I'm not a tax accountant, but for the layman, the way I know, basically, if you make $600 from one source out there, they probably should be issuing you a 1099. If I still struggle with, how is it different if, let me think. Yeah. I don't think we have to issue 1099s like a plumber. But if I hired that plumber to give a talk on plumbing or just, yeah, then I would have to do it. I guess maybe they built through their business. I don't know. It gets a little weird. Have I ever kept the Pandu Warus? I haven't. They look kind of cool. I've kept normal Warus. I always get bored before they get big and cool. So I definitely know I have a problem with fish that are like, that thing will be sweet in 3 years. I get bored at month 18 every time. Which I realize, well, you guys don't know, I have a fish right there that I got from Zenzo that I'm gonna try to not do the same thing with. So I know that blue light's kind of bad. What about red light? Is that bad for your aquarium? No. Red light is actually seen pretty well by plants. Green light is seen the best by your human eyes, but not very well by plants either. They still see it, but it also makes your aquarium look good. Reds typically are seen pretty darn well by plants. And when you're really optimizing for plant growth, that's where you see like the hydroponic lights are mostly like purples and reds, and so it doesn't light up your whatever you're doing like a Christmas tree, but they're getting that light. That being said, everything's still like, but with a grain of salt, they're also not reflecting or having refraction through the light when you put it through water. But even those will grow plants too under your water. So, can I keep 2 pairs of angels in a 75 tall? Yeah. I mean, you can keep them healthy that way. You could, if you're, 2 active pairs spawning is, they might be quite squabbly with each other, but you might have to intervene there. Yeah. But yes, technically you can, and it could work out great. It could also be like, oh, they're always after each other. Is it $600 in one pay or $600 over a year? I mow lawns for someone, and it's $500 a month, and I get paid via Zelle transfer to my bank. It's supposed to be over the entire year. So technically, if they were a business that you're mowing for, you should be filling out a 1099. They should be claiming it on their taxes, and so should you. If you are just a business, and I don't know what state you are, so again, I'm not a tax accountant, but most likely what should be going on, if you were a business and you're mowing someone's lawn $500 a month, you should be issuing them an invoice, charging tax, and remitting the tax appropriately, which, again, not everything is the same. There's certain, like I think if you're a maid, if you're like a cook, there's certain services that don't pay tax. I have no idea why. And then there's some that do. Like if you're a mechanic, you do, right? You just do. If you're a house builder, you do. So again, in your local jurisdiction could totally be different, but yes, if you're charging that kind of money, you probably need a business license. You probably should be charging some kind of taxes. You should definitely be submitting that at the end of the year on your taxes, and doing probably whatever your tax person or software is going to tell you to do. Store expansion opening date yet? Not yet. As of Friday, everything we submitted for plumbing got passed, but then they wanted some back pressure assembly valves installed. So plumber's going to install those, resubmit, get those signed off, and then we'll be done with electrical and with plumbing all the way. And right now we're waiting on HVAC to get their plans through permitting. And then after that, we can go for general occupancy. And then I'll set a date. So, from shipping notifications to product packaging, I'm very impressed with Aquariumcoop. 1010 will shop again. Ooh, I need like that. That's got to be like a slogan or a shirt. 1010 will shop again. It's all in how you say the again. If you say again, 1010 will shop again, doesn't work. 1010 will shop again? Oh, yeah. Will this be up to watch later? Yeah. In fact, I made a playlist yesterday and today. It's got 300 live streams in it. You can dig around and find that bad boy and watch way too much of this. Can you keep a betta fish and a mystery snail in a 2.5 to a 5 gallon? Depends on the mystery snail. I would say probably 60-40 no. So 40% chance, yeah, look at that, they're best buds. 60% like, yeah, that betta keeps irritating him. Does smoke from kitchen cooking affect an aquarium? It can, oils and things like that. You might find early wear and tear on products. What do you mean by that? Is like an air pump, right? Do I have an air pump? Yeah. If you have an air pump and it's got to suck air in, right? And when it's doing that, if you're a smoker or you've got kitchen smells and oils and just things in there that might gum this up, and you go, hey, it only lasted a year instead of 19 months or 2 years or 2.5 years. With every product, there's so much to go into it, like how deep is the aquarium, how restrictive was the check valve, how plugged up was the air stone, oh, you had 30 feet of line, oh, it was also in the kitchen, oh, you also wrapped it in a towel because it's getting too hot, oh. So it can be, might be a moot point. You might go, oh yeah, shorten it from 19 years to 16 years. Doesn't matter. Or it's like, man, I keep burning through these. Like, oh, well, maybe something's going on in your kitchen. Out of all the new plants added, what are the fastest growing? Probably willow high grow. That once that takes off, that thing's like a tree. Just sucks it up. Any idea what salinity level is needed to breed nerites? I don't remember. The book I would get is who wrote it? It was Mike. What's his last name? Mike. Mike Hellwig. I think Mike Hellwig and maybe Ted Judy did a book together, or maybe it was just Mike Hellwig on live food cultures. And specifically in that book, kind of a little nugget for a nerd like me, raising mollies in brackish water, when you put the nerites in there, they also would hatch, and all the larvae would float at the top of the water, and it would feed the the mollies. And so I would find that book, I would look again and be like, hey, I'll just delete the mollies from this equation and I will raise nerites if that was your goal. And I think it's only like a $30 book, and it was kind of just a good book to have anyway. So I can recommend it. It's pretty nerdy though. I mean, it's not for entertainment. It's like, oh yeah, here's Daphne, and here's this type of worm, and here's this thing, and at this point I've done most things. A lot of times people get little like, oh, I just found confused flower beetles. Like, yep, done that. Kind of a pain, but they're cool. There's all kinds of bugs and stuff like that you can feed, and wingless fruit flies, and every type of glass worm and all that. Why are Anubias plants more expensive than others? I'm not complaining. I'm just curious. In general, slow growers. There's real slow growing, high demand, and their structure is different than like Java ferns. Java ferns, they don't need as much TLC at the farms. And I mean, from the most rudimentary part, they're more expensive because we have to pay more. And every seller's going to be like that. It could be that it's just one big scheme that all the farms have done, but even in our own growing, it's like, yeah, Anubias take a long time. So I believe it just to be that. My Anubias are enjoying the easy potassium. In my area, which is Seattle, the water is really soft, and easy green just isn't enough. Well, good to hear. I still, I got a little video out there somewhere, but it mostly depends on how much potassium is being consumed, which, we're talking about this right here. I've got a new product here. Can I show it? I've got a new product to test, by the way. Testing. Is it safe to show? Let me analyze. Yeah. So I'm gonna work on some testing and stuff like that. With some phosphates. So here's a test solution of phosphates. See what I think about it. By the way, here's a gadget that the forum members invented. Or I'm saying they invented it. Maybe they totally stole it from somebody else. But I saw it on our forum. And this syringe, which apparently you can buy like 30 syringes like this on Amazon for $10. So I got some going to the store as well. I'm going to bring some to the store to use. But you put a piece of airline tubing, which it's kind of hard to get that on there, but now it's on there. And you hook this to the other side of your... Hey, I got one right here. You hook this to your air collar. And you can put it in the water and you clean it this way. So you run water through it, and you can, what's really cool, I'm gonna make a video about this. You can see all the water squirting through. It's gonna like sell this thing. What I mean by that is like now, because right now people look like where does the air even come out of? When you put the water through it, it looks so cool, and it's a great way to clean it. So you can kind of just in your tank water, fill it up. It takes a second because there'll be pressure, and then squeeze it through, which I just did all over my keyboard because I had water in there. Awesome. Yeah. So I'll show you guys how that's done, but this is a cool little gadget that is pretty, as someone said, is genius. It is genius, and I did not think of it. So just know that it's going to make a lot of people's lives easier. Because I've been using a little toothbrush, and that works. You know, a little brush, that'll work. But that thing, I like it quite a bit, honestly. So right here, I don't want to show too much. How do I do this? I do this? I got a wedding invite from a fan. They sent it to the store. I'm like, I've got a 3% chance. I'm like, I should just go. I have to RSVP in like the next week and a half, but it would be a lot of money to fly out to this thing, but it would blow their minds probably. Hopefully in a good way. Hopefully it wasn't like, oh, you actually showed up. Ugh. That being said, if you're watching the chat right now and you're like, oh my gosh, that's my cat. Also, don't set a place for me. I'm not committed yet at all. I'm like looking for a reason. Like, do I have any reason to be in that area at that time to justify this in some kind of business expense or anything? I do love this. The way you did it though is clever. I mean, they sent out to all their guests. So it wasn't like, I don't want to dox them, but it's not specifically to me. I just think they have a really nice invitation card that they sent to probably all their friends and family. So yeah, I get more wedding invites than I know. Yeah, trust me, I know I get a lot. Because when I'm at conventions and stuff, like, we invited you. Yeah, we know you're busy, you didn't show up. I was like, yeah. Yeah, I get oh, you actually showed up. The wedding gift could be the Wildcat coin. Oh, man. That'd be kind of... I just hooked up a plunger to my air tube at the check valve, and it worked out great. Good. I hadn't gone all the way to, like, check valve level. I just went straight to the source right here. I was thinking about that, but I wondered, how would you know how much water if the tube was really long? And I was worried that if it was clogged up and you brought back the syringe, that it would collapse the tube and not do its thing. So that's why I went straight to the... But good to know it works there. Joel, how many wedding proposals? Yeah, I don't know. Those get filtered out, I think. That's... Kenny's very true. He didn't even want to go on his own wedding. Yeah, worked most of the day. No, technically, I told my wife I was going to work a half day, and she would not let me. So I fully intended to until like the day before, and then I realized I was about to get a divorce before I got married if I didn't make the whole day free when I got married. So I worked the next day. We didn't take a honeymoon or anything like that. I literally went to work straight the next day. So, can you overfeed baby brine shrimp? Yeah, you can. You can feed so much you'd have excess rotting around. You could get hydra kind of fueling up, but it takes a lot. And I would say any amount of being reasonable, you're probably just fine. I want to change my medium-sized gravel to pool filter sand. RIP. Is there a proper way to do this? Should I do it all in one go, or should I do 1/3 every few days? I'm concerned with crashing my cycle. Yeah, I would say doing roughly 1/3 every, let's say, 4 days a week. You can get like a sour cream container or something like that. Cut the bottom out. Cut one side to make yourself like edging, and put that in, and kind of remove all of the bigger stuff you don't want and put the stuff you do want in. That being said, I would be going the other way. In fact, I am. I'm going to remove all the sand out of here and go to coarser gravel because I'm tired of it just looking cloudyish, and that's what they'll do with those fish. So I'm going more rugged. So easy cleaning that air collar. That was the only issue preventing me from buying another. Well, there you go. Yeah. People are having a lot of problems. What I mean by that is, myself included, what happens. So here's what I honestly think happens. This thing is awesome and really good. But you go, like, if I had this tank and it was running on a normal sponge filter for the last 5 years, the flow wouldn't have been crazy intense. And I put this bad boy on, and all of a sudden, it's like a black hole has opened up and it's sucking from 2 more feet than it used to because the flow is awesome, right? Because I'm cranking it through this linear air piston pump. And then I'm sucking in so much gunk that it eventually sucks into here. And then they go, oh, it clogs up too much. Well, what I found is once you kind of clean that thing like once a week for like a month and you get all that gunk that was kind of hidden in the wings out, this thing now goes months without needing to be serviced. So that was my experience. Maybe other people got chunkier water than I do, which I've got super hard water and all that. But again, there's always a million things. Maybe you got cooking oil in your water. Who knows? 200th like. Let's go. So like spike time. I've left an inch or so of old substrate in and covered it with new sand and had success. Still, do it at your own risk. Yeah, that'll work. I just don't like it when you like pick up a plant and then like, oh, we're mixing the substrates, and I just don't like that look. So I'm finicky. First time watcher, been binging your vids for the past week. Oof. Welcome. You are on the verge of becoming a lifelong nerd. If you binge 2 weeks in a row, it's like the kiss of death. Forever a fish nerd. I have a hard time bringing myself to clean my sponge filters. Well, I can't really help you with that. You just got to clean stuff. I thought about something earlier I can't remember what the inspiration was. If it was my own video or someone else's video. I can't remember what I was watching, but the person, I think it was me, but I hate when I say that and it turns out it wasn't me and then I just look like an idiot. But it was basically the effect of, the point I want to get across is not every aquarium has to have a filter. With the popularity of no water change, no feed, don't look at your tank, natural tanks. That's my shade thrown at them. Like, we want to neglect them so hard, I won't even look at them. That's going to be the next meta, right? I don't change water. I don't put fish in. I don't put plants in. I don't put anything. I don't even look at it. But anyway, the thing I want to get across is not every tank has to have a filter, and that's totally true. It doesn't have to. But I do believe every aquarium benefits from a filter. I honestly do believe that every aquarium is better off by having a filter. Especially like a sponge filter, an under gravel filter, something that's at least adding oxygen or air. I do believe every aquarium is better off for having it. That's probably one of those hills I'm going to die on. And I've even thought about visiting. I was like, I wonder, is there a way to like, because other YouTubers and like tech industries and stuff kind of do some of this. Like, is there a way where someone wouldn't get offended and be like, I would love to come and let's test the oxygen in the aquariums and like at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning for these planet tanks that have no outside air. In my testings, they are critically low in oxygen and causing distress to fish. Not enough that it kills them, but is causing distress at those low levels below like 4.0. Stuff starts suffocating. And to me, we've just waged a war on don't want like, oh, I just want to do the minimal amounts. Why do this? You don't have to have that done. When I get it. Use natural light, use soil. There's so many things where I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty much on board with that. It's fine. But the no air thing, that's where I'm just like, no, I don't agree. I do believe every aquarium should have air. you can definitely science me to death with like, if I have 26,000 gallons in one guppy, it'll never run out. Yes, but that's not how humans keep fish in general. You also like, so imagine you've got this perfectly stable environment, and you've got, plants are looking great. You've got soil, you've got the ecosystem running, and it's living off of scuds and daphnia and all that. And it's rad. And your power goes out for 2 weeks because you're in Texas, and now the temperature is too hot, and stuff's starting to decompose and die, and there's no air. I would tell you, like, yeah, had you had like a battery backup air, just air in general would have been better. Even if your power only goes out for 3 days, had you started at maximum oxygen, that profile looks a lot better at the end of that power outage than starting here and just going down until absolute oblivion. So, but a lot of the other stuff, no, it's fair. You can definitely create ecosystems that are self-feeding, and you could use soil if you want. There's a bunch of good stuff to it. I just do believe some of it's been taken too far. I put the Aquariumcoop air pump to use. Major power outages in Houston. Yep. I don't know. I swear, I think I'm just following weather more because I think I'm getting more fascinated by it. I think, or it's just happening more. I really don't know. But more and more, I'm like, man, people need more of these air pumps in this. Like, we need to create more products that help in this situation, because being in power outages sucks. Which, by the way, if you're in that situation where you're in Houston, you're getting those power outages, buy yourself USB camping fans. They clamp on, and they got their own battery pack inside, and they're like a light and that, and they're like 10,000 milliamps or whatever, mAh. And you can clamp that on the side of a tank, and it'll blow across the top. You'll get evaporative cooling going, and if it's 108 there and your tanks are overheating, you can use that to bring that temperature down. A fan blowing across the top of your water, by the way, in my testing, in my store, on average, we could lower it by about 8 degrees. Outside of my store, like here at my house, I could get it to go down about 11 degrees. Super useful for things that don't want to be hot. Different goodeids, axolotls, maybe some goldfish, where they just want to stay lower. But if it's 108 out and you don't have power and it's 115 in your house, dropping that to 100 just helps. It might keep some of it alive, which that's obviously pretty extreme. But imagine you're at 95 and you drop to 85, like probably everything's making it through that. And you hit these bad things where it's like, oof, at 87, like all the plants are dying. They don't have light. It's too hot. They're making tons of ammonia. Like, it's just getting harder to breathe in there. Just systems crash like that. Domino effect, with or without power, honestly. So, whoa, you got 2 duals and 8 singles? You need to be buying stock in the Aquariumcoop air pumps. Those double outlet battery power air pumps are a lot more powerful than I expected. I'm about to order a horde of them. Well, thanks. A lot of people say they're not as strong, and I kind of have to. I try and help realign people. Of, sure, this thing could be a beast, and then it would sound like a generator. Like, it would turn through power so fast that, like, we're trying to get the balance, right? Like, there's price. It needs to work all the time, but then it also needs to last on a battery, and it also needs to be quiet. You have to get all those things, and it's like, you can't have this thing pumps 80 liters per second or per minute, and it's free, and it's silent, and it'll run for 12 years on battery backup. Like, all of these things are in a balance. Like, oh yeah, I want it to be more powerful. Well, there went the power. Like, only lasts for 2 hours now. Or you could also be like, it lasts for 57 hours, and like, oh man, no air's coming out. So there's all of that hangs in that balance. And so yeah. But for the people that need them, they seem to be working out awesome, which I'm glad to hear. I use a fan to keep my axolotls cool in the summer. The room is 74 and the tank maxed out at 67. Yeah, so you get what? You get a you get a 7-degree spread. All right. I'm sure it matters how big of a fan to how much surface area. Like for me, it's mostly 40 breeders here and it's a store. But I was using like little clip-on fans, so I'm sure if you put a whole box fan and you had a pond, you could probably drop it. Like, oh, I could drop 15 degrees or something. But you also got to worry a little bit about water evap. You'll evaporate water real fast, and if you don't have power, putting warmer water back in is a little counterintuitive. But I'd much rather keep the animal alive for an extra week, and then power comes back on, than worry about the water evaporation. Well, keeping multiple types of geophagus together, will they interbreed? Yeah, they can. Yep. I don't think it's all of them can just interbreed. I do, but I think it's like corridors. Like, well, some of them can, and these, like this subgroup can, this subgroup can, this subgroup can. But I'm not well versed enough to know, like one spot, Damon Earth Eaters and Juraparis, like those are like sister species, should be able to cross kind of no problem. But well, I don't want like Gymnogeophagus, probably not going to cross over or want to if they have suitable mates. But like Altafrons and Rio Tapajos, for instance, will probably cross, yeah. Oh no, I've got multi-tank syndrome. Just dawned on me. Oh no. I feel like that's got to be a meme, like, oh no, I have multi-tank syndrome. And then just moves right on. The recharge took about 6.5 hours with the provided chargers. Yeah, if I was in power outage country, all of my battery backups, air pumps would be plugged into this bad boy. I believe these are, I think this is 10,000 milliamp, and it's its own thing. So instead of using like the provided one, you just plug this bad boy into this, right? And when this battery runs out, this will be charging it. So it's like you have like, oh man, now I can last several days. And then let's say you're still out of power. Like, oh man. Okay. Well, then you let this still run. And you go recharge. You go plug this in at like, I don't know, drive the half an hour away, which I realize very big power outages in Houston. But for me, I could drive half an hour away most times, plug that in, let those recharge overnight, go back the next day, get them, get that back and going again. Now I'm up and going. Which some people did run into some problems, not with these ones, but with battery backups in general. The things we've run into that too in Peru, not every battery pack works the same. Some of them have to have a certain amount of draw. So like if this is only pulling 2 watts, you might have a battery pack that says, hey, auto shut off after 2 minutes if it's pulling less than 5 watts. Because most phones and watches and other things pull more than 5 watts. So you might need to do a little bit of looking and make sure you've got a mode on it or it doesn't auto shut off in that scenario. Otherwise, you got to like hit that button every 2 minutes, keep it charging. Or plug in, another way you can get to that is you could plug in like 2 air pumps. If you plug in 2 air pumps, maybe then you're over the 5 watts. You don't run into that problem. So, yeah. Do I plan on selling your lights via partner stores? Yeah, they're all free to sell them. Most of them do. Someone asked, let's see, why was the Aquariumcoop heater discontinued? I know you covered it more, but I can't remember, and I really liked it. Mostly the TLDR, because I feel like I've covered this quite a bit. The TLDR is we crushed ourselves with our own social media of giving a place where everyone could complain in one spot. And we sold so many of these that if 1 out of 100 went bad, which more than 1 out of 100 had a problem, and I'll explain that in a little bit. When someone goes, hey, I'm having a problem, every day someone would see that in group going, oh yeah, they're always having problems. They wouldn't see the other 99 not having a problem. They would see the one having a problem. And so then it was constantly, we're getting, like, oh, don't buy them. They're so bad, blah, blah, blah. And we had about a 7% defect rate on one of them and a 3% on the other one. But that included if I shipped the heater to your house and it never made it to you, that was a defect. If it got refunded, that was a defect. As in, like, you ordered 2, like we get that, people do that a lot, where they're like, oh, I want an air pump and a heater, and then 12 minutes later, wait, I also need a sponge filter. That order gets refunded. That also counts against us, right? And so really what it became was a PR machine that was crushing us. And it was like, it's just better to not. We also designed the heater to tattle on itself. So like an Eheim heater, right? When you get it, you're supposed to calibrate it from the factory and then every year recalibrate it because it's going to get off. Well, ours was set to display an error code if you're more than a degree off, right? And so it let us know. We'd report that back to the manufacturer. We'd work on making it better. But that counted against us. Even though the heater completely worked fine. The heater would operate normally. It just would let you know it is 1 degree out of tolerance. And so all these little faults we had built in, which people would just post to social media and be like, hey, this one's doing H1. What does that mean? Like, oh, well, it's off by a degree. But it would freak people out. So then we'd end up sending them another one, and that would count against us. And so, yeah, for the most part, we just go, let's get out of this game. It's a hard game to be in, and when things go wrong, you can cook all the fish. And there were defects and problems, and it continually got better, no doubt. But at some point, we had to make a decision. We said, you know what? Let's get out of this game. I never once used the Eheim heater calibration. Yeah. Well, yeah, and had I made my heater just not tattle on itself, half of the error rate would have just gone away, or more. It just wouldn't exist. It'd just be like, because most people, they just look at it and be like, oh yeah, feels about the right temperature. And the reality is, it doesn't really matter if it's 78.2 or 79.3. It honestly doesn't matter, but yeah. Am I considering working on a new version of the heater? No. Nope. It's, honestly, I just want someone else to do one. Like, it's too much stress. Yeah. And money outlay. Like, we refunded anyone that wanted a refund. We destroyed, like, between the order that was placed, the ones we had in stock, the stores were refunded, the customers, anyone that wanted one, it was over $100,000 that I just put straight into the garbage disposal, essentially. Like that. And that doesn't happen with products that are cheaper. It's just, electronics are very expensive. So when something goes wrong or you want to make a change, like that kind of money that's stupid money. It's like, that's $100,000. So yeah, I see. It sucks because mine works great. Yeah, the feedback from the stores was, they were like, what do we do now? Other heaters are just worse. Like, I know, but I can't let, like, oh, their heaters are having problems, and then all of a sudden, like, I bet you their air pumps do too, and I bet you their lights and their sponge filters and this thing and that thing too. So it was better to, like, just chop that arm off to save the rest. So that's what we did. Yeah, there's a heater that looks like a clone of yours on Amazon. Well, there's that problem too. There's actually like 15 different clones of our heaters. And when you break them open, they're literally made different. They don't have long cords. They don't have the same modifications. They don't have this. Like, that happens all the time. Like, Higer's got them. Other companies got them. Most products will be that way, by the way. There's basically what I believe is going to happen and is happening. You're going to have to believe in companies, because a lot of stuff you won't be able to tell the difference until it just breaks. So on the outside, it'll look the exact same. But then as you don't get the longevity, you don't get the warranty, you don't get that stuff. And it happens all the time. And I don't, like, some people are like, oh, it just sounds like you're just whitelisting a product. It's like, yes, everything in the world is basically whitelisted. Like, every type of cell phone out there, are we all just going to say, like, oh, well, someone made the Nokia brick phone, therefore everything is just a copy of that? Like, yeah, with a bunch of changes. Like, that is literally how, like, oh, well, someone invented a car and then other people made cars. Like, yeah, you put your own spin on it. Oh, it's got this feature. It's got this speed. It does this. We optimize for this. This one's a family van. This one is a hybrid. This one is electric. This one runs on biodiesel. This one does this. This is made for this market. This one does for this. Like, that's what the game is. And so I think what people are going to learn is that you're going to start wanting to buy from brands because you'll know they've made the changes. And even though something will visually look the same, you will know that they're not. Or at least I will know. I will know that, like, yeah, we can make that thing. We would save half as much money and it would break and be unreliable. But we're not going to do that. And so there'll be people like, I can buy that for half as much money. And I'll be like, sure. Go look at our, it should be right behind me, right? Where is it? Auto feeder. Where are you? Auto feeder? Over here. Our auto feeder. You can go find 50 versions of those. You'll find half of them don't even have batteries. Like, they don't have lithium ion batteries at all. You have to put your own batteries in. Like, that's a completely different product, but it looks the exact same. You can see Lifeguards. It does have a lithium ion battery, and they sell theirs for $55. Like, that's nearly double what ours is. And then there's programming schedules and warranties and things, you know, like how good of components you're going to use. Yeah, so that just is going to be an issue, I think, going on forward. So, yeah, as Candy points out, and customer service. When you have a question, you know, when you want to know, hey, this thing's doing a thing. Hey, I want to talk to someone. Hey, I want to know how to clean it. Hey, I want to know, are you guys making this better? Spoiler, we're making it better. We're making it better. It's going to last longer. More battery time. Still waiting on it. I would have thought my samples would have been here by now. I don't know where it's at, but still waiting on samples to test the longevity. I believe it's going to work, but I want the latest production sample, test it, measure it. Yeah. I remember when the stealth heaters were having problems. I had one explode and crack at the back of the tank. I had it in an overflow. Marine Land replaced my 180 gallon and the wood floors. Hey, I like that. I like that guarantee that they did. Like, that's going above and beyond what you probably don't know unless you've been following it. Like, stealth heaters used to be amazing, and then they switched factories and they were just exploding nightmares. And they switched factories again, they're exploding nightmares. And then Aquarium basically started making stealth heaters, and then those they switched again to make them cheaper, and they became exploding nightmares. Most things, like, I bet if most of you were in the room, I'd be like, do you think this company is the same? You're like, no. And I'm like, it's the same. Like, you don't know, like, oh, cobalt heaters are made by Aquarium in Poland. Like, they're not two different things. They're the exact same heater. One puts a thing on it. So people will say, like, oh yeah, cobalt heaters have a problem, but Aquarium never has. It's like, no, we tested them. They're literally the exact same thing. Before we made our heaters, we wanted to sell theirs because they promised us they had fixed the problems. And Dean has burned through, like, I don't know, 20 cobalt heaters. And so I was like, here, Dean, try these. And he's like, yeah, they're broken already. With Aquariums too. So it's like, clearly problem's not fixed. But most things, myself included, there's only so many factories. There's not going to be like, well, there's, 700 different aquarium heater factories. Like, no, there's like probably 16, and like, okay, this one's in Germany, this one's in Italy, and then you've got 14 of them in China. Is kind of how that stuff works. And I wouldn't even be shocked to, like, actually, Corey, there's 6. Like, oh, even less than I thought. I pulled my hair algae out, and the trout goodeids and Amica splendens love it. Yeah, they're good little algae eaters. We still got a few left at the store, by the way, that were bred in the 800 gallon. I do love them for algae control. I also love rosy barbs for algae control. What time is it? We're still good? Yeah, I got like 30 minutes. Okay, we're good. Can I use sword plants? Wait, can sword plants... My brain is conflating too. Can sword plants used as a house plant, regular plant? Okay, so the sentence is wrong, not my brain. Can sword plants used as a house plant, regular plant? We have a plant that looks like a lot like a sword plant, but I don't know if it's the same. I don't know. I can, what is it, mother's tongue? I can only think of that plant, maybe. I'm not sure. Most aquarium plants can be grown out of water. So the answer is, yeah, it could be, but I actually think, like, it's pretty unlikely. I bet you it is different, but every once in a while you go, wow, sure enough, that's what you got. I really like that you do the physical product testing and let us know the results. That's half of my job or more. try a bunch of things. And really that's where it starts, is like, okay, we want to do a thing. What are the problems with the things on the market? What do I not like? Why wouldn't I just go buy the one on the shelf? Or I buy this one on the shelf, and here's what I would do if I was going to fix it. Okay, well, what can we do there? And then by working on all those things, you'll have a couple things you want to change. But then as you do it, you'll learn more. And then you're like, well, why wouldn't you do this? Like that, let's just do that. And then you might talk to the factory like, yeah, we actually got this idea. We got a prototype over here. And you're like, that seems amazing. Yeah, this company poo-pooed it. That company said no. And then test it and like, oh, that thing doesn't work. Okay, not that. But sometimes it does. And so hopefully by the time you actually release a product, it's like, hey, we made it better in 3 or 4 different ways. And that seems amazing. Like if you just had a car and you're like, hey, this car model is better in 3 or 4 different ways that are tangible. You know, like, oh, it's cheaper, it gets better gas mileage, it gets a better safety rating, and it has a bigger trunk. Like, that's better in every way. Yeah. Does having carbon in a hang-on back filter absorb easy green added to the aquarium? Yes, it does. Would it make sense to pull carbon so it doesn't defeat the adding of easy green? Yeah. I recommend pulling the carbon. You can use Purigen. Purigen won't pull out fertilizers, but carbon will pull out all fertilizers, will pull out all meds as well. In general, I try not to run carbon in tanks unless they're specifically absorbing something, whether it's tannins, a med, a toxin. Yeah, I want a purpose to be doing that. And if I don't have a purpose, then I go, well, then I just don't do it. Worked in an orange juice packaging factory one summer in college. The OJ was all the same, no matter what brand box it was going into. Yeah, that, in my opinion, is just a purely white label situation. If you don't change anything, that is just the same thing. That being said, I also believe packaging could be changing. I will say we haven't changed just a package. That's not true. We have. Because like our air connectors, there's nothing to change about them. The only difference is our package and our customer service and our price and stuff. But in the example of an OJ, a gallon jug versus a half gallon versus a twist top versus a Capri Sun pouch versus a thing, I do think that the ease of use is a thing to factor in. But yes, a lot of times, hey, we're at the widget factory, all these widgets are the same. We go out of our way to go, I understand that, and I'd like to make our widgets different, but not always do they look different. It could be like if we were designing cars, you're like, that looks like exactly like this other company's car. Exactly. It's like, yeah, but we optimized and we got you more trunk space where they just left air. We injection molded it, so the trunk actually got bigger. And we changed this one thing here. And, oh, the software the car is running, right? We've tuned it differently. Oh, and this part that you can't see from the outside, we changed as well. Oh, and we upgraded the compound used in the brake pads so they will last longer. And we did this thing, but from the outside, they would be exact twins and you wouldn't know the difference. That can happen. So, and really, you got to take our word for it when you're the buyer, because you don't have any reference. You don't have two right by side. You could take them apart, and there's a lot of bad actors in the world. And I could be lying to your face right now, like all we do is make this up. We never change a thing, right? But I know we do because you guys see. That's why I go out of my way to show you guys in videos. Like, look at this version. Look at this one. Look how we made it better. Look at this version. Look at this version. Look at all the versions of Easy Flows, and even from when customers helped me 3D print prototype versions, all that kind of stuff. And then like you could say, where do I have it in here? Oh, the duckbill ones that the company originally wanted us to do. Like, yeah, right. Is that it? Yeah. This is originally kind of this right here. Well, it was just this. Sponge filters with this is what the company started with like 15 years ago. And you still put the tube down the center, and that creates channeling of air, and that's a problem. The tube is more narrow, and then this hard right angle, you get all this flow and then dribbles out. And so just by changing to, the airlift system and making it adjustable for different size tanks, right? These parts are real loose because they're all prototype. And making sure we could hold the airline on the outside and then making it not at 90 degree. And you can see here that we tested 65 degrees. Here's 57.5 degrees. And you can see like they actually got testing. Like that's algae on the inside of these things, right? These are all 3D printed and different sweeps and different, yeah, here's another 65 we were testing. And so after doing all of that, that's how you finally get to this bad boy, right? And you don't have to do all that work. That was 2.5 years of work because I'd have to go find them, but there was all kinds of different concepts from the collar on the outside to something that fit on the inside. There was different versions of the collar on the outside. And then the first, we had versions, is this one? Yeah, this one, some of the first versions, it would have been like this. So the airline would have still come in through the center. And this was version 2.0. It's labeled on there. And then we eventually got to 3D printing ones where it's on the outside too. And then we end up going with that design long term. But that's how you get to a point where it's like, oh, now here's this thing, which even this, like even when you have a working version, we went from 3D printing where it just builds it, right? Like, okay, we're going to make one, to this is now 2 parts and it's laser welded together so it can be injection molded so that we can make these 4 billion a day, like a lot of them in mass production and keep them affordable. So even when you have like, hey, we made the thing, then you have to go, okay, we were making it 3D printed. That's not scalable. And they break down, by the way. So you could 3D print your own, but just know they break down over time. Then you got to go, how are they actually going to be manufactured? Like that's a whole new thing. And you got to pay for the molds and you got to work with it. And you go, hey, that's kind of not working very well. The clear translucent pieces, they had to buy and make a machine that would basically take this diameter tubing and then build it. And that's why you can see like the lines. It's got like, I don't know if you guys can see it, but these little ridges, part of the bending process. So, yeah. Wish you made some saltwater lights. My AI Prime is a pain in the neck. That's a bummer. Yeah, I really try hard not to dip my toes into the areas that I'm not good or better at. And what I mean by that is like, I fully believe we could have a saltwater light under the Aquariumcoop name, but that process I just, like, in the saltwater world, here's what I think the difference is. I can't look at all the lights on the saltwater market and go, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is what I like, this is what I don't like for mushroom coral, stony corals, this coral, that coral, okay, canyon trees, this and that, and go, here's the 2 tweaks I want to make, and then also make other tweaks. Like, I'm not confident I could make a saltwater light for hardcore, not hardcore, but just like saltwater nerd aquarist, like I'm a freshwater plant nerd aquarist, that would actually be an improvement. I could definitely go, yeah, we did a Me Too light. Like, it's another light. It's basically that light right there. It's basically the same price. Basically does the same thing. I just made the cord longer or something. But we genuinely try to go, hey, how do we make it our own thing? And there are some, like, dechlorinator is going to be one of them. An airline connector would be another one. Like, I'm not going to say there's no innovation because someone could innovate, but there are products where it's like, I don't know, there's a lot left on that. I don't know. Do I patent stuff like that? No, most things are patented 50 years ago, and either the patents run out. Well, yeah, the patent has to have run out because we wouldn't be able to make it otherwise. But in different fields. Like, you wouldn't know that, like, this technology where air sprays this way in this collar, for all we know, we could look into it and it's like, oh no, actually, Mattel, the brand, patented that in '86, and that was the technology used that when you have a water rocket for your yard and your kids, it sprays out to lift it. And you're like, no one would know that, but they had that patent running for maybe 20 years, and like, hey, guess what? It's 2007. Now anybody can use that technology. And things with, like, it could also be like, oh, this is the way you aspirate this one specific carburetor from the 60s and all these crazy things. So most things that we would play with, that if they already exist in the market, they probably don't have a patent if there's more than one. There are things that are patented that would blow your mind. Like, the Python hook, there's a patent on that for like another 15 years. So a bent piece of plastic, you're like, okay, nobody else can make a Python hook. Those things are going to be stupid expensive for the next 15 years, even though you can make your own out of PVC for about $7 or something. But if you wanted to make them commercially and sell them, you couldn't. So, at least in America. You can do it in other countries. I got a Sicce Shark Pro 900 for Christmas, but my tank is 36 gallons. I'm concerned it will be too strong. There's usually a way you can dial them down, even if there's no adjustments. Usually you could fasten something to the output. Or sometimes, and I haven't played with all the Shark things in quite a while, but sometimes what you can do is, let's say you have a Shark 900 and you're worried about too much flow. Maybe you can buy the impeller for the Shark 600 and that'll fit. Most times, the way things are made, you'll have like the same head unit on all of them, and then they'll just change the impeller size, as in the length of the blades, and then they'll add like length to the body. So usually every motor is the same, and then just the impellers. So like all the Aqua filters work that way, almost all the Penguin filters work that way, almost all the CCAM filters work that way, because it doesn't make sense to design 5 different motors. You just have one motor, and then you have how long the blades are is how much water pressure it'll push. And so you might be able just to order up, hey, I ordered a $10 impeller, one step down, and you put that guy in there. Hey, you got the flow you want now, and you've dialed it down a notch while having the extra big media tray. Yeah, no other brands have a hook style water change system. Not that I know of, only Python in America. In America, I believe it's only Python because it's under a patent. Because there's ways I want to make that product better. I don't want to give them away, but I think that product could be made better. But that technology of bent piece of plastic is currently under a patent. So there you go. And part of it is, I maintain that if people make a good product at the right price, there's no reason to really try and improve it and do your own thing. I personally, that's why we don't sell it anymore. I think we have one left at the retail store. But the Python hook, for what it is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, everybody should have one because it's awesome and it is a good thing. I just don't think it should cost that much. Python hook, how much are they at right now on Amazon? $23.45. $23.45. And then you can see like there's a Dreyu Aquarium, so a knockoff version for $13.99 that's probably just shipping out of China that they're probably working on shutting down, or maybe they change the name often enough that they can't shut them down. But yeah, that I wish they would do a couple of things. I wish they would do the things that we know can make that product better. I wish it didn't have to be so darn expensive. The good news is it is a product that you buy it once and you'll have it for the end of your days on Earth. Like it doesn't really wear, it doesn't really go bad. It is. So I guess it is one of those buy once, cry once products, I guess. Yeah. Where'd my chat go? I gotta get back. Come back, chat. All right. Since I travel a lot, have you noticed type of algae more present in a country but not in another? I've noticed hair or black hair algae is talked about more in the American fish tubers. I haven't noticed specifically algae that are more or less prevalent. I believe when you really, because I've had some conversations like this, really it comes down to an American hobby and the rest of the world are completely different hobbies. Yes, we're all putting fish in aquariums, but on average, when you go to another country in the world, you're like, oh, cool, you have 10 gallons, or like, oh, you have 35-liter tank, and you have another tank that's 14 gallons. You have two. And then you go to America and you're like, oh, you have 42 tanks, and they're all 55 gallons and bigger. Like, it's just like, even in my own thing, not that many places I go to that aren't full on businesses would be a hobbyist to be like, oh yeah, of course I have 30 aquariums. And when you have 30 aquariums, you just have more chances to have more types of algae and more problems and more things. So when you have two, it's much easier. Like when we went to Israel, for instance, like people would have one or two aquariums and they would be amazing looking. And most of Europe was that way. There's a lot less space compared to our homes on average. Doesn't mean we also have small homes in some places, but we also have bigger homes in general. Can you wait? Can you resend out a member message so it appears at the most recent message? No. I think you only get the one. I eventually get to most of them. I mean, I see yours there. Do local club swap tank? Hold on. Why is my brain not? Do local club swaps tank the sales? Okay. Do local club swaps tank the sales of local fish stores? I think that's what's happening in Chicago. There's so many swaps, it's just better to buy and sell there. Yes. In general, I remember one time meeting with our board of directors of our club, and I said, what you're doing is directly hurting all of your sponsor stores. And what they had done is there was like the big sale of the year, and they had like two different fish rooms that had shut down from people who had died, and a store that went out of business that donated all their tanks. There was like 300 aquariums that were all used and cheap, right? And definitely less than $1. And their counterpoint, and I'll give them a little bit of that, is like, well, we now have 300 aquariums that need, they're going to need fish, and they're going to need plants, they're going to need this. And my counterpoint was, and they bought that at the auction from you guys. Like, in my opinion, at least the way our club runs, the goal is to be in a symbiotic relationship. And that goal would be, we donate things to the auction. You guys promote us saying, hey, Aquarium Co-op donated this. If you need something, go visit them, right? That's a symbiotic relationship. And we also say, hey, you should sign up. And that's why you get a discount of 5% in our store if you're a GSAS member, right? So it's supposed to work in tandem to, one, grow the club better and grow the stores better and reward the sponsors and that kind of stuff. And in that instance, it's like, we can see it. You flooded 300 aquariums into the market. All the sponsor stores are not selling aquariums. We already deal with Petco's, PetSmart's doing those sales. This is why when you come and you're like, you guys don't stock aquariums, why don't you have the 33-gallon long I want? It's like, because you guys are doing swaps and all these things that sell all the aquariums, and there's no money. Like, most people don't realize, when I buy an aquarium for $100, we sell it for $130. And you're going, you make $30. Okay, hold on. Now you pay with a credit card, like, oh, I just lost 3%. Like, okay, there went $4 of the dollars. Like, okay, we're down to $26, right? And then it's like, oh, you also had to have it pay to be delivered. Like, there went $2. Like, okay, well, now you're down to $24. Oh, and then you had to have an employee talk about it, right? Like, oh yeah, here's this, and here's that. Like, oh, it took them 20 minutes. So for us, that's going to cost us about $10, right? So now we're down to like, oh, $14. We're going to make $14 on a $100 sale. Then 1 out of 10 aquariums just comes back. I wanted to return it, but I took the sticker off. Now he's eat it. Now we're down. If 1 out of 10 does that, now we're at $4, right? Yeah. Katie's saying also rent and bills and all that. Yes. So aquariums at your local fish stores, they're losing them money. Every time you buy one, if you just buy an aquarium, I promise you, they might not know it yet, but they're losing money. The fact that it had to sit there and they had a variety and they're paying the overhead and all that. And I've had long conversations, and I always show me the math. Do it. Let's do it on the back of a napkin right now. Prove me. Show me how you're making money. And I go, and then they always go, And then they usually pivot and they go, well, you have to sell aquariums. And I go, do you? Do you have to sell aquariums do you have to lose money? Like that? And I'm not, we do carry some aquariums, but at our store, when you go to, you're like, oh, they're over there in the break room? Like, yeah, we're not taking up retail space. Like, so few aquariums actually sell because of dollar gallon sale, because of swaps, because of garage sales and all that it's not worth it. Now, in other areas in the world, it is, because there's not all those things going on. And aquariums typically are expensive in other countries. So it would be. But in America, and obviously it's not everything. You could be like, well, this small fish store, there's no Petco, PetSmart within a 200-mile radius. Like, okay, sure. But they also paid through the roof to get those aquariums to that store anyway. So, let's see here. What chair am I sitting in right now? I've been looking for a good leather chair for my fish room, and do I like it? I do love this chair. When I tell you the cost of this chair, it's only going to be like, it'll probably catch me some heat, but I will preface this with, I believe everybody should spend money on their beds, their couches, their desk chairs, and their car seats. Anywhere where you're spending lots of hours and you care about your back and your body at all. Because I'd be like, oh man, I'm dying. Like, I cannot sit here and work this long. So yes, this chair is a stressless, that's a brand, stressless desk chair. Let me see if I can find you the version I have. Stressless office chair, maybe? Office chair. Stressless office chair. I think it's the Miranda, maybe? Miranda. These, I'm trying, the office chairs they're in like no furniture store until I eventually found it online, and they're like, oh yeah, we could order that. Like, no one buys those because they're stupid expensive, but it has changed my working life. Yeah, so I have a Stressless by Acorns office chair, and I believe it's the Miranda, and I want to say they're like $3,000, which is absurd. But nerd battles, people are always like, no, you just haven't the right chair. Like, I own different Aaron Miller chairs. I've tried lots of other chairs that are all the best. And I spent basically 2 years of my life trying to perfect this. And I learned all about, most chairs are not meant to be used this long. So if I want to watch my fish and live stream and work and game after or something like that, most chairs maximum 8 hours. What you're actually looking for is a chair that can go 24 hours. And where do you find those? You actually find those at like 911 call centers and things, where every shift the chair changes, or like the chair stays there but the person changes, but they need to be able to be sat in 24 hours a day. Like shoes, for instance, you're supposed to wear those every other day so they can recover. Well, there's recovery time on chairs and things too. So when you get down to that nerd rabbit hole on chairs, this is the best one that I could find after testing. And I would take my wife and we would just go test store after store after store after store after store. I bought different chairs of what I thought were winners, and then they would eventually like, it's not it. Not in, unfortunately. So find that chat again. But if you get a tax return or something like that, like it's not just a, oops, I bought one. It's a, am I going to invest in my back for the rest of my life? And I, by all means, I still to this day watch like Craigslist and Facebook, because every once in a while someone will sell it for like $100. I've never seen one, but I've seen other people on Reddit and stuff are like, I just picked up this chair. I didn't know it was expensive. Got it for $100. Like, oh man. Yeah. So I do keep an eye out to try and find myself another one. I would love to have one inside the house as well. Tax deductible, everything's tax deductible if it's for the business. Unfortunately, when you own a business, you realize that doesn't really help. It still costs you lots of money. Yeah, one day I'll learn and stop buying $150 chairs. I ran that game for 20 years of my life at least. You wait till like the piston breaks or something, and then you go to Staples or whatever, and you're like, "What's the best chair you got?" And you buy that, and then we leveled up, and Jimmy and I, back when we were at the old house, we bought Secret Titan chairs. I definitely not a huge fan of those ones. $500 each. We waited till the Thanksgiving sale, got them for like $350 each or something, and they were still a step up from the $150 chair. But once you experience, like, and this is a true thing, you should be able to sit in a chair for an unlimited amount of time and not have any aches and pains. That's how it should be, but so few of us has ever had that experience. We think that's an impossible thing. So, yeah. Yeah, so watch for a cheap one. Just like, if someone says, "Hey, buy an Aaron Miller," you can get them for $200 to $500 on Facebook Marketplace, right? You can find, if you watch long enough, you can find that, oh my gosh, there is one. So, when is the Aquariumcoop Hangout back filter coming out? Haven't even started, so not anytime soon. Wait, it's 5. Okay, it's late. Can we get the name on this one again? It's the Stressless Office Chair. I believe I have the Miranda by Ekorns, Ekrones, and it, like, barely anybody stocks them. So when I ordered it, I had to wait like 7 months. So that part also sucks, but it's because it's a crazy expensive office chair. Like, businesses aren't buying them, home people aren't buying them. It's the same price you buy the chair in like the little ottoman, like the Swedish Scandinavian design chairs, except it's made into this chair, and this office chair that is awesome. But on average, people don't spend that kind of money, even though a lot of their lives can be at a desk, depending on your type of work. And I have a type of work where I'm at the desk all the time, and it was literally impacting my ability to make money. Like, oh, I need to live stream, but I also need to do this, I need to do that. So, yeah. I just spent $2,000 a month ago on a new seat for my semi truck. Yeah, that seems insane until you're like, oh yeah, you're putting in 12 hours a day on that seat, and that literally will determine whether you're gonna have back problems in 20 years through your career. So I invest in it. You were definitely right about the Hoka shoes. Yep, I'm still wearing Hokas. Actually, right now I'm wearing some flip-flops, some extra cushy flip-flops, which this is my latest find. Some people at the co-op are now wearing these bad boys. They got extra, I forget, what are they actually? They are, nope, this says made in China. Oh yeah, these are the cushion bronzer. That's what they call these bad boys. This insane cushion right here. These are the flip-flops. These are the go-to. These are the summer kicks. They're like $50 on Amazon or something. And I always wore Reef flip-flops before. These ones are just like twice as thick and just better. So, upgrade. Yeah, a seat in a semi is a good investment. You spend a lot of hours. I see it no different. If my work is live streaming and Excel spreadsheets and emails and all of that, I spend a lot of hours here as well. To me, it's the same investment. Nikki Fufu in the house. Been a while. And gifted subs. Thank you. And a few other people have as well, and I miss those. I miss calling those out. Do I think there's a decent amount of demand for black chin libraries? I got 100 of them and starting to think about offloading them. No. I've read them a few times. There's a few takers, the other library nerds. But the general public doesn't go, wow, where like an orange platy gets that wow factor, right? A blue platy, another library full of color steals the show for the average person. So, Disabled, so in my chair a lot. I can feel the steel plate under the seat when I sit. It's a horrible thing. I've got stacks of cushions on it, so I can tolerate. I really need to invest in a new one. Yeah. I mean, well, I shouldn't say part of my problem is just weight. I'm a heavy dude. And so I do know that, like, Jimmy sitting in a seat is different than me sitting in a seat. I'm also taller than Jimmy, and there's things about it, right? But yeah, if you're a heavy person, padding and stuff like that, it wears different. Not wears different. Well, it does wear different, I guess, but might not be thick enough or whatever. And so, yeah. I did get those Hokas you like, and my girlfriend thinks they look ridiculous. Oh, yes. The Hokas in general are not winning the look super cool awards, but they are nice. I tried the recovery sandals from Hoka's, and they fit different. Like, I think in the Hoka's I wear like 11 and a half. I ordered like 11 and a half in those things, and they fit like they were like a 10 or something, and I just didn't reorder other ones. So I do love the recovery Crocs, but I like those for winter. Flip-flops in the summer. Is a single Fluval 3.0 enough light for 75, or should I look to a different light? Or get two? Depends on, are you really trying to go highlight and carpeting? If yes, then you need two. If you're just like, hey, I want a Nubius and Java ferns and a few stem plants, you could probably get away with one. What kind of shoes? Hokas. 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 And specifically for me, I love the Bondi 8s. Zenzo loves them as well. Randy thinks we look ridiculous in them, but our feet love it. So, yeah, the shoes before were some Reef flip-flops. The bronzer, the cushion bronzer, as they're calling them. They're newish. I'm in the market for a new or a second light for my 65, so both sides of the aquarium can have light. My Amazon swords don't seem to be growing tall. Do I need a stronger light? You could, but Amazon swords don't need that much light. You probably just need more root tabs. Like, just keep putting root tabs under them. Almost always when people are using root tabs, I watch them and I go, what? You're going to put like 10 more of those, right? And they're going, no, I just put like one. I'm like, that sword's this big. It needs one like before you get done planting it. So it likes lots. And then you can't overdo it. So let's see. I gotta cut it soon. I wear boring Dansko clogs at work, but they have saved my feet and back. I tried 2 different pairs of Danskos, so did my wife. Never got that was back when I was working at the store. I was on my feet all the time there. Just, those ones never clicked. Never clicked with me. Probably just different foot anatomy, I'm sure. Let's see here. Try UFOs. At this point, I don't think I'm trying anything else. I already have like the normal tennis shoe Hokas ready to rock and roll. I've got my flip-flops ready to rock and roll. And I've got like my fish room Crocs ready to rock and roll. So not really looking for any new shoe. I try not to just buy shoes to buy them. Usually I'm like, well, I have a need, right? And in the summer, if I drop water from water change or cleaning on my flip-flops, it's fine. In the winter, I like the Crocs to have a little bit of shielding so that I don't get my socks wet or something. And then the Hokas, they kind of have a little netting, so if you drop a bunch of water on, you do get wet, but they tend to work out well. I like that they have the big sole to them, so I can like walk through puddles and not have my shoes get wet. Yeah. Store update. Waiting on HVAC now, essentially. One thing after another. Every company works at different speeds, and rarely do many of them work at the Aquariumcoop speed. So, yeah. I'm hoping, I don't know. I don't have a quote yet. I mean, I have a quote, but I don't have like, because it hasn't made it through the government yet, as in City of Edmonds, that could take weeks or months, or it could be tomorrow, and then it's got to hit their schedule, right? Like, and they gotta schedule cores to go through the wall. They got to do that, and that could be a month or two. Oh, it could be tomorrow. Like, there's just a lot of things, so I don't have a timeline, unfortunately. It's just I always like, cool, yep, I'll pay for it. Next, let's keep going. Yep, next bill. Yep, 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 yep. Maybe next week. Yep, yep, and then we'll open. Takes that many yeps. All right. So yes, let's see. We're in the middle of summer. It's hot out. If it's 4 billion degrees, like if it's over 95 all the time, plants might struggle. You can still try. Order them on a Monday. It's actually the perfect day to be ordering from us right now. If you order right now or tomorrow early, it'll ship out Monday, and there's no holidays in the way, so ships Monday. If you're close to Kentucky, where our warehouse is, it's going to overnight or 2-day. If you're all the way over here on the West Coast with me and you're ordering live plants, well, we're going to ship them 3-day select. And if they leave our warehouse on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is most likely you'll get them on Thursday, and they'll be fine. So you order them on Tuesday, now they arrive on Friday. If there's any extra delay, that Friday becomes a Monday. So my advice to everybody is, no matter what you're ordering, it will get to you the absolute fastest if you order basically anywhere from Saturday night to Monday morning. They all kind of leave Monday afternoon, and that is the shortest amount of time anything can be there. And so, yeah, everyone, myself included, I always want it faster. Always. Like, if I could have it now, I'll take it now, I suppose. So, yeah. If you order from us, that helps. We like to keep our crew busy. We don't send anybody home unwillingly. We give everybody 40 hours, even when it's super slow and the weather's super nice, because we want people to be able to have an income they can depend on, and that's important. And yeah, so summers are always slower than winters, and so yeah, anytime you guys want ordering this summer, it helps us out exponentially. Am I good? You're looking pretty well. I'm doing pretty good. I don't know if I'm getting. I think what's going on actually is the moving of the warehouse and all of that was so much stress that now that it's up and done and working and doing well, that the amount of stress now that should be crushing me feels like it's easier. So once the store's opened and running, and once the store's open and running, and we've got all of that just fully fleshed out, and we get out of summer where it's slow, and we go back to keeping our people super busy, and the sales are there, and all of that. That allows me to enter my flow state again of like, all right. But when it's not, when it's not doing that, like sales are down, like you guys see me more in the groups, more on community page, more live streams, more of this, more of that. I just got to stay at it. And I want to do more live streams. Honestly, I love to do live streams and I want to do more of it, but I'm like, I actually have stuff I have to get ready for the marketing meeting tomorrow and this and that. And I don't have to do as many of those meetings when you guys are just buying stuff. Like, hey, all right. Are all plants guaranteed to be snail free? Nope. Definitely not. The only plants that are plant free would be tissue cultures. And I would go out on a limb to say anyone, any plant seller that says otherwise, I wouldn't trust them. Like, there's not really a chemical, there's not really a fish, there's not really anything you can do to guarantee it's snail free unless tissue culture. Because all the meds and all the stuff you could do, you could have copper, won't affect the eggs still. So, but if they do say, yes, you could get duckweed, you could get snails, you could get algae, you could get this, then I would be like, hey, you're buying from a trusted source. They're not trying for a quick sale, they're trying for a happy customer. And so, yes, you could get algae from us. Not that likely, but you could. You could get duckweed from us. That's fairly likely-ish because all the farms have duckweed. You could get snails and might. Yeah, It's impossible to really stop it. So you might even get a nerite snail, because we use nerite snails to eat up dead leaves and algae and all that kind of stuff in the tanks. And so you might get a bonus, you know. Yeah. Hitchhikers are fun surprises. Yeah, you might even, lots of people get fish eggs, like from the farms or from us. Like we might have a flagfish or a Siamese algae eater or something in there just working on stuff. And when you get it, you might get a free fish because it hatches out. Duckweed's a pain? It is. I'm sure that every farm and warehouse like me, if we had a choice, no one would have duckweed. But since we don't get that, we don't have a choice. So we just have to deal with it. We try to remove as much as we can. We have overflows. We do everything we can to be as duckweed light as possible. But anyone to guarantee that, that's a fool's guarantee, I think. Yeah. Been trying to buy stuff, but bills are getting in the way. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Pesky bills. What season do people buy the most plants? January. Like January to April. And it's because I think people are stuck inside. That's what just sales in general. January to April. That's the time when everyone's like, yeah, I'm doing aquarium stuff. So, yeah. Not going to know what to do with myself once the store opens. Oh, yes. There is a laundry list of products to test and things we want to do that I keep going, well, like I still don't have my 3D printer set up anywhere. Own that thing for probably 2 years now. Still don't have it set up. I definitely want to learn to 3D print. That'll make changes I want to make to products happen faster and new ideas happen. There's plenty of stuff to keep me busy. Just trying to make sure we, I can't sit around and play with 3D printer and products if my store goes out of business and we go out of business online and all that. So obviously there's an order of operation I have to stick to, and I will. But once we can get all that, squared away and it's rolling and doing that, then I can sneak away and play with stuff. So, all right. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for those that became a member. Thanks to those that bought memberships. Thanks to those that will purchase or have made a purchase or will purchase in the future. All of that is helpful. It's how I justify getting to sit here on a Sunday and speak with you guys. Otherwise, I'd have some other job, and maybe I'm working today, or maybe I'd be too tired from work and wouldn't be able to work today, and I'd be spending it with family instead. Yeah. Trying to think of anything else I got, anything else I can reveal. Not really. I think it's been a good time. And, yeah. We'll miss you at Aquashella. Yeah. It's, They tried to get me to go, and my statement to them, both George and... I didn't talk to George, then I talked to George, and then I talked to Sean for a minute, was it's not personal. I have literally committed to no other events. I'm focusing on our business. So it's not like I'm not going to Aquashell and I'm going somewhere else. I'm not even going to the ones in Oregon that are pretty close. I just fully laser focused on our business, our products, and you guys, and... that's how I know that I'm leaving nothing on the table. I go to bed thinking about how do I do better, and I wake up doing better, and I answer as many comments as I can. I answer as many emails as I can. I answer everything, and I won't wonder like, well, could I have done more? Nope. I got a $3,000 seat that'll let me sit here all day and just bang it out. So, yeah. Dorcula's doing some shopping and stuff. I think she might be stopping by grandma and things like that. But I wanted to get the live stream in today because I'd been feeling guilty about that. So she wanted me to run errands with her, but I said, I gotta do it. And she said, yeah, I know. So yeah, compliment someone this week. Tell them they look nice. Tell them they made you laugh. Even if it's hot out, maybe it'll be better. And hang out, have a good time, watch our videos, watch for what we're doing, and yeah, we'll talk to you later. Gotta find the buttons, though. Always the buttons. Oh, there they are. Bye-bye.